This is a tradition that we've done now for about 7 pictures in a row because we want to welcome you, Leo, to our family. The group that you see assembled before you, we've been together for 7 films. And I want to wish everybody a healthy and safe and creative shoot. And, here's to you, Leo.
Salute.
When I wrote Catch Me If You Can, I was about 28 years old. I never dreamed that it would really ever be a movie, and certainly didn't realize 20 years later it would be the movie that it is.
When Leo's brought around, we come up like this. We come over to Leo here.
Over the years, many studios and many directors and people have had the film, but it really took someone like Steven Spielberg and Jeff Nathanson to write it and make it the way it should be to make the story work.
Where's the mom? I'm going to put the mom next to Brenda. You can kiss them both. I make totally gut choices about the movies I direct, and this was an impulsive decision. That's great. Thank you very much. Good. You know, I have been tracking Catch Me If You Can for about 1.5 years inside our own company. Love the different versions of the script that Jeff Nathanson was writing. When I was a little bit in doubt whether I should, follow minority with this, I had a reading. And I had my wife, Kate, and her friend, Dina, and Dina's kids, and my daughter, Jessica, and her friend. We had 8 women reading the script out loud to me. I didn't participate, I just listened to it. And at the end of that read, I was absolutely certain that I couldn't wait to make this, to sort of share it with you. It's kind of like I've sort of done a big table read myself, and I made a movie out of that table read. I love the story about how you got the cops off the gates. Right. You realize the scrambled scene.
Right.
I was sent a tape of Frank Abagnale Jr. talking about his life, and I listened to it, and it reminded me of the stories in the movies that I grew up really loving in the 70s. Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, or Sting, or One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Films that sort of highlight people who are working on the wrong side of the track and who are going against society, and yet you sort of can't help but root for them because they're so incredibly charming. I read the book, and we brought the book to DreamWorks. We started developing the project from there with Walter Parks.
You actually would dress up like a bank security officer at the airport with put a sign saying
Bank box out of order.
bank box out of order.
And as a kid, I remember I was always trying to imagine what it would be like to be able to just fake my way into extraordinary circumstances, and that there's something very universal about that. That's one of the themes that I think the movie explores. That idea of transforming yourself into someone else by virtue of a uniform. It's almost like a superpower.
We will always believe a person in authority over us. Well, most of us will. And if a guy says he's dressed like a bank guard, he must be a bank guard, and he was being helpful, actually.
Frank was definitely a criminal, although I never wrote him as a criminal, or I never really thought of him that way.
The truth is that when you're real young like that, I felt very deceived and thought, well, see, you can't trust anybody, and if you're not anybody, nobody really cares about you.
He was a kid, and he was a confused and smart, misguided guy who sort of got on the wrong track.
We've all done something.
We've all done something, Frank. We've all done something. But few people have done the kinds of things that you did that is full of American initiative and chutzpah. That's what makes the story so original.
Line.
Making a movie like Catch Me If You Can, a cohesive whole, is difficult because it comes from real source material. And oftentimes when you have a book like that has terrific incident, it makes for a very episodic script. We actually went through several drafts of the script before we found the key to turn episodes into a story. And the key actually was the character of the FBI agent that's played by Tom Hanks.
That was me.
It was at that point that we said, that's what it is. It's about a kid that leaves one father and actually finds a different one.
I'm ready to shoot.
There is something about this early jet set age, literally Boeing 707s and Pan Am World Airways, James Bond movies. To me, it was the highlight of glamour. Colors looked cooler. Everything was very bold. Everything was very stylish. It was a time of certainly of this whole brand new way of a melding of rock and roll music and media images that really did permeate us as a society. And I think it was really the beginning of merchandising, not just of cool product, but literally of ideas.
So I'm going to have her over by the fondue pot over here.
It's been amazing. I mean, every day to walk on the set, to see these scenes recreated, to see the detail that they put into making everything authentic.
I love doing period films. I love being absorbed in a completely different world and walking around in an environment where all the sets and all the characters are dressed in period costume. To me, it makes everything slightly surreal. It brings you more away from you, who you are in modern day. It allows you a much bigger freedom as an actor to try new things and do things I don't think you would normally do.
Well, it looks better. That should be all right. We have, what, one departure board for Pan Am?
Janine Openwell's a wonderful designer, and it was a guerrilla operation once again. She had a commando crew that went out and begged, borrow what they had to in order to get this period to look absolutely 60s perfect.
And we're now 40 years away from that. The farther you get away from it, the harder it gets to get back. So we spend an enormous amount of time taking stuff that's bad out, hiding it with bushes, hiding it with boxes, painting it away, finding creative ways to disguise things. That's how you slowly peel it back until you feel like you're where you're supposed to be.
We're going to do as much as we can today.
Okay.
We're going to take an extremely early call Monday.
We did a lot of research. I happen to have my own, huge collection of research materials available. I talked with Mary, the costume designer, for a long time, and we talked about a color arc of emotion in the movie in which he would start in a kind of an ordinary, slightly monochromatic environment, and as he got better and better at his game, things would get wilder and wilder in terms of color.
It's a big party scene, of course, 1960s, great fun, great house, just a fun, everything you think a 1960s party would be.
That's one of my favorite sets, actually. It's the set that we could have the most wild fun in. We took some ingredients from our research of Playboy magazines of the period and crossed it with our knowledge of the craziest furniture so that it felt kind of wild and trendy. We were going for something that was really kind of a sophisticated party house with a certain amount of bad taste.
So we provided, champagne, drinks, the fondue, anything that the actors were holding, we had. Set dressing, provided a tremendous amount of plates and glasses, and we had a food stylist come in to help us with the fondue, which it's burnt cheese, so yeah, it tends to not be pleasant on the set after about an hour.
Frank, this fondue is so good!
Great, yeah. That fondue. I had fondue when I was young, but I never had that sort of really smelly fondue that, affects an entire room like that. Fondue couldn't smell that bad. Who would want to eat that?
Catch Me If You Can props really did need to tell the story because a lot of times you don't know who he is. So a document had to tell you, oh, there's his passport, there's his birth certificate.
Leo.
So it was very challenging creating, all the documents needed for every different period we were in and for whatever character he was playing.
It should bring the focus to the diploma. I want to be able to read the diploma.
We probably created over 100, 150 different documents using all different grades of paper, watermark paper, whatever it might be. It wasn't like I could just go to a neighboring prop house and order this. There's stuff we had to find, and with the help of our graphics department, put all these different elements together into what we needed pertaining to the script.
Hey, Mary? Yeah? Isn't he wearing a Manhattan Eagle suit? Mary Zoffrey is the costume designer, and I specifically wanted to work with her because I had loved so much of her work with the Coen brothers. What you do when you design costumes for an actual period, as opposed to something which is mythological or swords and sorcery or science fiction, you have to be authentic to the period. So she did a lot of research, and every single week she would bring books in, and Life magazines in, and Look magazines in, and all sorts of periodicals. We would pour through them and almost laugh at the kind of clothes that people wore back then. My God, it was awful. But I think she was able to make what I thought was kitschy and awful into a real sort of funny style.
Terry, this is Italian knit. Watch where you're going.
It's a real person's life. Let's make it look real instead of overly designed. So that's what I started off by doing is a lot of research. And then from there, I went off and did my own interpretation of that. When I first read the script, I thought, oh, he's in his pilot uniform an awful lot. And then I read it again. And I realized that he had 100 wardrobe changes. 100, that's a lot.
Say cheese.
There's about 130 day players, and there's about 3,000 to 4,000 background in this movie. So we have a lot of purchases that we got on this show, and we rented from all over Los Angeles. I think we wiped out Los Angeles completely of 60s because there were so many different looks in this movie. We had New York City, we had the South, we had bathing suits, and we had sexy girls, and we had Southern belles. You know, you name it, we used it. We used a lot of different stock. And then when we go to France, it's a whole nother look. There were certain things that we did to just sort of help tell the story, because Frank has so many different changes and so many different looks in the movie, and he's in so many different places. I mean, how do you make it easier for the audience to kind of sense that you're in a different place? So I did a lot of play there with the palette of the film.
Boom up, yeah. I'm not sure if this is the move, but yeah, this is stop.
Janusz Kaminski, my cinematographer, and I decided to play against the darkness of both AI and Minority Report, and instead concoct a rich dessert with Catch Me If You Can. Colorful, using a lot of primary colors, celebrating the cars of the 60s, celebrating the costumes, the funky hair with the flips. I mean, it really is a movie about hair and makeup and wardrobe and style. Now we can cross, we put the table here, we can cross all the things on the table. And people drinking and...
Yeah, we have to raise the table, but that will work. Visual approach was really simple. Let's have fun, let's not make it too serious. Let's make it a little bit of a comedic, and let's create a world that's slightly idealistic. Let's create a world that's slightly champagne-like, you know. And the lighting reflects that.
That's fantastic. That's really great.
It's very colorful. You see all the colors. You see the pink, the blue, the green, the yellow, because that's the movie, you know, full of humor and really kind of a bizarre and humorous situations. And also there's some really, really serious storytelling.
Hey, where are you taking him? Let me in the car. Come on, let me drive. Come on, get out of the way. I'll meet you there with the Fiat.
Janusz and I just have the greatest working relationship. I'm so blessed that I have, you know, Michael Kahn, who's edited every single movie of mine except 3, and John Williams, who has virtually composed every movie I've directed, a feature film, and now Janusz, who finished his 7th film with me, with Catch Me. But beyond the working relationship, I think what touches me the most is we have a very deep personal friendship, and that has gone a long way in getting us to understand each other with whatever we do. It's going to work out real well. So it's just going to be a steady cam all the way here. I set the camera, I pick the lens, you know, I block the scenes camera-wise, but Janusz paints every shot according to how the script and the moment, the scenes are affecting him. So he is very, very story conscious. And Catch Me If You Can, which is a very upbeat dessert of a movie, we didn't want to go with a low, dark, half-light feel, but instead it's very bright and very colorful, a lot of light on people's faces. I mean, directly into the eyes. You see people's eyes really well. And it's a huge stylistic departure for Janusz and I, and all of our work together. Janusz, how's this for Leo, for more profile?
I happen to like Catch Me If You Can simply because it was non-effect driven. It was pure drama. People are talking and talking about human emotions, and the actor's performance conveys those emotions and lets us feel what the actors feel. And I like that kind of storytelling.
Leo, where do you see how fast we move when we make movies?
I heard.
It's real fast. Just put your seatbelt on. The movie is as sleight of hand as Frank Abagnale's various characters in his real existence. And part of that sleight of hand was making this picture in just like 52 days in something like 147 different locations, all throughout Los Angeles, New York, and in Canada. And it was a lot of moving around. And I have never worked faster in my entire life.
$1,000.
Cut! Really good. Now just give me one faster with all the cues much tighter. Sometimes we would have 3 locations moves in a single day. 3 actual moves in one day. Let's do it one more the same way, except they'll talk faster.
Talk faster.
And Leo and Tom might walk a little faster.
Yeah.
And just be aware of that. That's
ready for that.
Wait. Talk and walk faster?
Well, we gotta walk to walk, you gotta talk to talk.
There's 2 clues to the style of the production itself in the script itself. First of all, the title is Catch Me If You Can. And in some ways, the production itself mirrors that. There is almost a sense of running on empty from location to location that infused, I think, the production with the kind of energy that was appropriate to the material. The other thing is, if we had the script right here, you would see that most of the scenes are a half a page or less than a half a page. And that means that every time there's a new scene number, you basically have to move the camera, move the crew to another location. That's one of the nice things about the script, was that even though it's a character piece, it moved like an action piece because it was so brisk and so tightly cut right on the page.
It's a huge task where you actually, every day we had to change locations. Every day the trucks would move. Every day we would have to pack up and start again.
It was the fastest paced film I've ever worked on. I mean, I had the flu for most of the film because I never got a second to recharge my battery. We were constantly moving.
One more!
Okay. One more. It was very exhausting, simply because of the logistics and the physical task of moving from one location to another to another.
That was what was good about it. It was like a theater group or something like that. We were constantly creating things on the day and moving to a new location and saying, okay, what if we completely change this around?
I'm going to add a couple of lines. Not my script.
This frenetic pace, I think, gave the movie so much life and energy.
You see the sheet fills the frame, and when the sheet, it's like this, and she's taking it out like that and walking it this way. It reminded me of the best times I used to have in television. When I was first getting started cutting my teeth on Marcus Welby, where you had to really move fast and quickly. As Leo runs, you can come right from that room over there running straight down here. In this case, I think by moving fast, it kept momentum going, and the movie just speeds through its storytelling process. And we paused and let Leo, that energy somehow got into the cast, got into the storytelling, got into the way the camera moved, and the whole movie feels like it's on a fast track. Thank you, guys. That was quite thrilling. Cut, print, and wrap!